Hello, everybody, and welcome. We will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Corliss.
Here.
Halliburton.
Here.
Rouse.
Here.
Knapp.
Here.
Here.
Willis. Here. All present.
Well, thanks. We've got quite an agenda today. First up, we've got Jen Halliburton, welcome, to talk about the city's flag redesign process. And as you're coming up, I'll just say I'm really excited about this opportunity because I have heard from so many people over the last couple of years in Boise that have seen other communities throughout the region, the state. Pocatello's got a great flag, that have updated their flag. And somebody said to me last week that our city is so much more than a logo on blue. And this is an opportunity for our residents to rally around what we are most proud of and what we love most about our community and put that into images to describe who we are. And this will be a community-driven process that Jen is going to outline for us. We have a flag redesign committee that I have spoken with every member, invited them to serve. And each one of them in the conversations, whether it was over the phone or in person, reflected the same excitement and interest and commitment to this city and telling the story of who we are through design that I've heard from so many residents in the last couple of years as folks have talked about a flag. So I see this as a really exciting opportunity for all of us to talk about what we love about Boise. There'll be a survey that goes out this week to start that community feedback process, and Jen's going to tell us more. So welcome.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today. Again, my name is Jen Halliburton. I'm the Marketing and Digital Communications Senior Manager in the Office of Community Engagement. Mouthful. I'm here to share a fun project with you, like the mayor said, the redesign of the City of Boise flag. This project is more than just a redesign. It's an opportunity to engage with our community in a meaningful way. In a partnership with the Department of Arts and History, we're working to create a community-inspired and a community-led flag redesign that truly reflects Boise's identity, values, and culture. Our goal is to design a flag that resonates with Boise and creates a symbol that represents who we are today and the future we're building together. Quick little history lesson for you. As you'll see on the far left is our city seal. It was designed in 1893. It features a soldier, a miner. If you squint really hard at the top, there's a beaver. And there's some other historical Boise history in there as well. It's still used today for official purposes. If you look at our City of Boise proclamations, you'll see our seal on that one, for example. Next over is the our current logo and flag. It was adopted in 1989. Our flag features our logo, which is the state capitol building surrounded by trees, hence the city of trees, with our solid blue background. While the design was functional and relevant at the time, we feel there are elements that could better represent Boise and the diverse culture of its community today. On the far right is our city mark. It was introduced in 2016 as part of our visual style guide that was launched to enhance Boise's visual identity with a more simple and modern design. So why redesign the flag? This year marks our 35th anniversary of Boise's current flag, a milestone worth recognizing. However, it also provides us with an opportunity to reflect on whether our flag truly represents who we are today. We want our flag to be more than just a symbol. We want it to be an expression of our collective identity and aspirations. We would like to see our flag be a source of pride for the community, one that represents Boise's shared history and values while embracing the city we've become. We have an opportunity to create a modern yet timeless design that represents the essence of our community, uniting residents and inspiring civic pride for generations to come. In recent years, many cities have undertaken similar efforts in redesigning their flags, creating modern symbols that reflect their identities and communities. This is Salt Lake City. The two people who designed this one, the new flag is on the far right, logo in the left, old flag in the middle. The two people were actually high school students at the time, which is very cool. The white and blue represent the Great Salt Lake, while the white lily on the top left represents resilience. The 3 petals are significant because Salt Lake City is the only state capital with 3 words in its title. So next we have Spokane. This was designed, the far right flag was designed by a professional designer. It's a sun over a green field separated by a stylized blue river. Both flags are great examples of the importance of simplicity and symbolism. A quick overview and timeline. We've completed the research and planning phase, and like Mayor said, the Flag Design Committee has been formed. I'll explain a little bit more about them on the next slide. The community survey has been launched, and we're gathering input from Boise residents on what they want to see in the flag. The community engagement team will be promoting the survey through our newsletters, social media, and additional outreach efforts to ensure broad participation. Once the survey closes, we'll analyze the community feedback and identify key concepts and values. The Department of Arts and History will then use this input along with design guidelines and flag design principles to create and launch a call for flag submissions from Boise residents. After the submissions close, the Flag Design Committee will review and narrow down the designs to a final selection. This all guided by Mackenzie Dunstan from the Department of Arts and History. The final designs will then be shared back with the community for voting, and in the end, we'll have a final flag design that was inspired and chosen by Boise residents. The final design will then be presented back here at City Council for formal adoption. As we go through this process, we'll share our findings from each phase on the city's website, to ensure transparency. This is our Flag Design Committee. It's a temporary committee made up of 10 members. The members include Layla Ramella-Rader, City Community Engagement's Creative Services Manager, along with community leaders, a state legislator, representation from Boise's neighborhood associations, members of the media, local leaders, local business leaders, and more. Members were chosen to reflect a diverse cross-section of the community, ensuring that a variety of perspectives would be included in the decision-making process. And like I said, next steps, we're encouraging the community to complete the short survey with questions addressing symbols and imagery, values and themes, and design elements. And then after receiving that, we'll launch our call for flag designs. By leaning on the strengths of both community engagement and arts and history teams, I'm confident that we can make this short turnaround this project a reality. And by redesigning our city flag, we're not only enhancing our visual identity, but strengthening the bond between Boise residents and the city they call home. This is more than a flag. It's about creating a symbol that reflects our values and aspirations as a community. And I will stand by for questions. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, Jen, thank you for the presentation. My question is about in between. Could you go back to the timeline? Will there be any opportunity? Let's say we have a public submission that the committee really likes. Maybe it's 95% there. Do we have any opportunity for a professional designer, either on staff or on contract, to touch up a design that might almost be there?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Nash, there is liberty because we will be getting submissions that could possibly be a painting or be made with color crayons from a little kid. So there will be things that will need to be done to polish up so that it is really fine-tuned for the public.
Madam Mayor, I was going through some of the constructive feedback that was online on the social media post, and there was a lot of concern about us changing our logo. And I just want to make it clear that we're not changing our logo. We're designing a flag in addition to our logo. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Halliburton, yes, we're not redesigning our logo. There's many cities that their logo is quite different from their flags. So we're just making the flag at this time.
All right, so it's official and on the record that we're not changing our logo. It's separate, it's a flag. And then when we're doing this survey, will the survey be available in multiple different languages?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Halliburton, yes. Will any survey that is requested at any language, we will translate that for them.
Great, thank you.
You're good. Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Can you tell us? Thank you. Need to be reminded. Thank you so much for the presentation. Can you talk about how the idea originated? Like, was this a constituent that emailed and said, "Hey, can we get a new flag?" I'd love to hear the history on that.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Willits, yeah, I think it's something that we've been thinking about for a while. We have had community members request it. We actually have already received several submissions of flags that people made years ago that they wanted to see implemented. So it's not a new concept that we're just springing in with, but I think it's just a general consensus. We'd all like to see something fresh and new that represents Boise. Anything else?
Madam Mayor, I just want to thank you all for this work. It seems, there's a lot of really, really important work going on in our city. And this is just a really fun opportunity for our community members to help kind of put our stamp, on the city. When I started researching like flags, when I saw this item coming up, there's a whole area of study of flags. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. It starts with a V, but one of the 5 principles are no lettering or seals. And so I'm like, oh, okay, all right, I can see how our logo looks like a seal, and we could use something that expresses our city and our community more. So I want to thank you. I do think this is impactful work and something that people will be really proud of.
Madam Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Jen, could you go back to the slide that showed the logo and the seal? Yeah, I just wanted to ask Councilmember Halliburton if he had any interest in moving our logo back to the old 1893 seal, and if he feels like that would bother the Facebook comment section.
Negative, but I would like to know a little bit more about some of the things on the seal. I'm very intrigued by the beaver and some other things that are on there, but no, thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I'd just like to propose if we do that, the beaver needs a parachute.
Yes. It definitely needs a parachute. All right. Thanks, Jen, so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The next item, we've just got lots of fun items and celebration about community today on the agenda. Bonnie, welcome. Bonnie's got an update on the 100th anniversary of the Boise Depot that happens in April. So before I move on, I do want to say that the last presentation on the flag is a collaboration between arts and history, and we've got team members here, and community engagement. And this is a collaboration between parks and, of course, community engagement and arts and history as well, to celebrate this really special building that we have, that we hope will have trains again soon.
Yeah, what a great segue, not only talking about what makes our city so special, but when you think of Boise, so many people think of the depot. It's just such an iconic landmark. And I'm Bonnie Shelton, the Communications and Marketing Superintendent for Parks and Recreation. I feel like every time I come, I'm showing you fun things like logos and merch. And so I'm going to keep that trend going today. This is something that I feel like my role is often utility player for the department. I kind of get subbed in on a lot of unique things. And from my experience working on planning the X Games qualifiers that we held years ago to the Boise River Greenbelt 50th anniversary, this was another date that we had circled on the calendar for a long time and that we've been talking about. So it's exciting to fill you in on these conversations and plans that we've been making. Honestly, for more than a year, we've been talking about this, and I don't stand here alone. I have a great team that I'll kind of talk about on the next slide, but we have had an awesome group, and I'm so grateful to all of the department directors who really offered up, pick a member of our team, bring them into this planning process. And so I've been pulling from some really great leaders from across the city to make this entire event happen. So really, this is a community celebration, community focused. And I love to start these planning processes with a goal or a mission statement that we can all refer back to as we're kind of planning this out. So you'll see our goal there. And really, it's celebratory. Celebrate the history of this iconic Boise landmark, provide opportunities for all community members to enjoy and experience the Boise Depot. And you'll see those 3 words there. Those are really our guiding light. Free, we want people to be able to come, learn something new, do something with their family, make memories with their kids. We want it to be accessible for people of all abilities, all ages, really something for everyone. And of course, fun. We want this to be something that people look back on and it really feels like it met the time and the recognition that this building deserves. The event dates, I know these are on your calendar, but just to reiterate, Sunday, April 13th through Wednesday, April 16th, 2025, which will be here before we know it. And just to reference, the Boise Depot opened on April 16th, 1925. So that is the true 100th birthday of the Boise Depot. And of course, we have plans for that, which I'll tell you about in a little bit. And again, that planning team, I mean, the mayor hit it right on the head. We have people from across the city with a variety of expertise. Not my first rodeo with this, and I know it's best to pull from all those people who know best their areas. So it's been awesome to work with this team and fill you in on some of the fun things that we've been working on today. So here you'll see kind of the vibe and vision that we've been creating. The community engagement design team that we have in-house here is top-notch. Love them. They always help bring my vision to life and just what we want to create. And it's so cool to have that within our city. You'll see that historic photo there from opening day. We've really been trying to pull from the past, honor the present, and envision the future of transportation and rail and what this building will be to the city for generations to come. We do have some merch. You'll see the pin design that we worked on that you can get if you take a tour at the depot during the centennial. We've also got some fun things that we'll have available throughout that celebration, with all proceeds going back to restoration of the building, promotion of the depot. We really wanted this to be something that the community can gather around and feel like they're supporting this place that's so special to so many people throughout this entire event. So that's been a big part of our planning process as well. And of course, history and public art. Our arts and history team has been instrumental throughout this process. They're creating a brand new history exhibit that will be on display. There's just an example there of kind of what it will look like, but really pulling together stories about the labor history and rail and providing an opportunity that will live on past this centennial celebration that we can have at our open houses at the depot, that people can interact with for years to come, and really just gathering a lot of the stories that can be told about this place. So that'll be a super cool addition that will debut at the celebration. And then on the right there, this is a very cool thing that I have to give that team props for. It's this very innovative animated art projection that will be happening on the depot building, the facade on the front, all 4 nights throughout the celebration. And 2 local artists, Will and Annika, have done an amazing job. If you went to Open Streets Boise and went to their booth, they were gathering input from the community on what the future of transportation could look like here in Boise. And they used that to create really cool stop motion art. Every night we'll have a different theme. And so once the sun goes down, we'll flip the switch and activate that front area of the building with that art projection. So again, our goal is to utilize different aspects of this space, give people room to roam, walk around, experience the depot, maybe in a new way than they have before. And that's a really cool way that we'll do that each night throughout the celebration. So more to come. And then we also really wanted to activate and engage local artists. And so we came up with this idea of commissioning some poster designs that could be commemorative pieces that people could get at the celebration. And so here's a sneak peek of one of them. This is by Julia Green, who's well known in town. And I just love the celebratory feel. It's got the vibe perfectly that we are going for this event. So you'll have to join us to see the other 2. They're all completely different, which I love. We kind of gave them a prompt and they took it from there, and it turned out to be such a cool process to see what they pulled from the depot, their memories of that place. Because if you've been here for any amount of time, chances are you've been to a wedding, you've taken family photos there. Everyone has their depot memories. And so it was kind of cool to see what they picked up on in each of their designs from that place. And here is kind of our current state of planning for those 4 days. And really, we wanted to keep some time open in case something comes up that we want to plan. But we tried to make each day a little bit different, offer something for everybody who may have some experience here, no experience with the history of the depot, make it fun, make it for families. Sunday is our family day. If you've been to one of our anniversary parties at the depot in the past, it's basically got a ton of stuff going on that you can have fun, experience. We'll have food trucks, we'll have pop-up performances as scheduled, we'll have activities for kids, model trains, we'll have our depot tours going on. So lots to do and see, with the goal of having that open house feel where people can come in and kind of experience things at their leisure. Monday, we're going to focus on depot tours. If you weren't aware, we offer free depot tours every Sunday during our open houses at noon and 1:30. You can just show up, join the tour, and learn about this awesome building. All of our tour guides have a little bit different spin, but they give you kind of some background knowledge. You get to experience the place, go up in the tower, which is a super cool experience. So that Monday, we really wanted to have more of a calm, come experience, come take a tour opportunity with coffee and pastries. And then on Tuesday, we're going to do more of an entertainment, art, and history focused we're in talks to do a live podcast taping to talk about the future of rail, really some experiences to come in, maybe interact with the artists who we've been working with throughout this process, learn about the history exhibit that's there, explore the grounds with some more things that we can add kind of as this comes closer. And then Wednesday is the big day. That is the 100th birthday. And so our vision for that is an evening celebration. Think big band, live music, a roaring 1920s theme, since we're harkening back to 1925. Food and drinks. We're going to activate the Barklow Brothers Bar. Just a really fun atmosphere with a photo booth that'll be custom for the event. And just like a fun party vibe. Of course, we'll have a cake and we'll do something for the 100th birthday, but really just capping it off with that great celebration and a commemoration for the 100th. So more details to come on that. We have some fun ideas that we're still locking down. I can't give everything away today. Have to build the momentum. And again, you'll see that art projection experience every evening throughout the event, and we hope you'll join us. We're planning on Sunday night to do like a flipping of the switch event. So when we unveil that, I hope you all will plan to join us, and I'll work with Amanda to make sure that's on your calendars too. And just some additional details. Obviously, we know this is going to be a big draw. Just taking a look back at our anniversaries on the 96th, the 97th, we draw more than 1,000 people to those events alone. So we will have a full parking plan and a shuttle schedule. We've organized shuttles that'll run from Ann Morrison Park and just be making a loop up to the depot. We hope to have the Peaslee Street connection open so people can walk up and down if they park by the softball fields, which will be great. But really having a set plan that will communicate well in advance so we can make sure people can get there safely. Opportunities for oral history gathering and storytelling. We have been putting out information and we have a call out to gather some information from residents. And we've gotten some super cool stories shared with us and things that we'll be using for social media and potentially adding to the city's archives, which is great. So everything from, my dad was the last person to lock the depot doors when that final passenger train rode away. Like, we've been hearing from some really cool people and gathering things, so that's been fun. And we'll continue to do that throughout the centennial. Translation services. Danny, who's the language access coordinator for community engagement, has been super helpful. We're actually planning to offer tours in Spanish for the first time. So he's going to be helping us coordinate that for those tour days, and then making sure that we have opportunities available for people of all languages and backgrounds to come and learn this history and really feel like they're a part of the celebration too. So that's been great. Photo and video commemoration, community partnerships and recognitions. If you were around for the Greenbelt 50, if you know, we did a lot of that, just recognizing partners, trying to find meaningful ways to bring them into this event. And finally, I've been getting this question a lot, is a train coming? Are we getting a steam engine? The last time we had a visit was in 2017. And we have made that request with Union Pacific, hoping that we could potentially get a visit from a train either around the centennial sometime this year, and we're still waiting to hear back. So fingers crossed that we can make that happen and have that visit, because I know it's super popular with the community and everyone really loves when that happens. Last time we had about 8,000 people show up for that train that came. So we'll see, more to come. And last but not least, I wanted to leave you with the website at the very bottom of the slide. We have been updating kind of as we lock in details. We'll be sharing more information. And of course, we'll be doing media promotion, marketing, sharing with the community what we're doing. But that really is our one-stop shop for information as it gets closer. And that's it. I can stand for questions, but we hope to see you there.
Madam Mayor. Thank you. This is really fun. I see Maria is in the audience. This logo is perfection. It is perfect. It is so beautiful. I'm so excited to see it everywhere. Couple other comments. The animated art, I think, is a really incredible opportunity. I mean, it's something that you see in other cities, obviously in immersive art environments, but to have something like that here, I think is really a step up from other things that have ever happened. So thank you, thank you. And then the most important question I have is the 1920s party costumes encouraged?
I mean, yes. I knew you would ask that
I am
question, and I
so
knew you'd be
prepared.
down.
I am so prepared. Thank you.
I'm ready. I have like a very flouncy skirt. It's going to be amazing.
I'm so ready. Thank you.
Madam Mayor. Barney, I just want to say thanks so much for this presentation. It is exciting, and we're excited to engage with the community. I really appreciate the city offering this as free activities for the community as well. I'm so excited to see the artwork and the history that's going to be there, and appreciate all you guys' hard work that you've done to get this together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Bonnie. Really excited about this. Appreciate all the work that each of you has put into this so far and your teams have put into this, and looking forward to celebrating this really special place.
Thank you.
And next up, more fun, fire squads. Welcome. This is a continuation of the report that Chief Niemeyer was giving when we ran out of time, with the specific piece that we jumped over so that we could talk about restoration in the Barber Valley. We've got Romeo and a whole bunch of folks here, the leadership team of the fire department, to share perhaps general updates, but with a focus on the squad pilot, correct?
Correct.
Great. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, members of council, I have no logos, no beavers, and no parachutes, but I do have red fire trucks. So hopefully that will suffice. As the mayor alluded to, this is kind of a continuation of our four-person staffing discussion, really talking about what our next steps are, what our next plans are for different things. The squad and the four-person staffing are kind of complementary proposals. They both work to meet certain goals that we have as a fire department and as a city to provide services. So we'll jump right into it. What is the squad? The squad is a light duty truck such as this or vehicle, which is a two-person staffed vehicle, which allows us to respond to different events in the city. Predominantly when we say a squad, it will be able to respond to emergency medical incidents, but also to fire incidents. So the members on the squad are fully trained firefighters, as well as emergency medical technicians. So they can respond to both those, and that's an important component as we talk through some of the goals of four-person staffing, as well as just the squad in general. This should be a familiar slide. So once again, just kind of refocusing the conversations, why squads, why four-person staffings. It does focus back on that NFPA 1710 compliance. So looking at concentration and distribution of resources. So that's really why we're talking about these things. And as I said, the squad complements four-person and four-person complements the squad. So what are the benefits of the squad? Cost effectiveness, first and foremost. It reduces operational costs. So operating a light chassis vehicle versus a heavy chassis fire engine, significant cost savings there. The cost of the vehicles themselves quite a bit different, right? When we're talking an engine now, up over $1 million for a new fire apparatus for an engine versus a squad. The best thing I have right now to compare it to is kind of our new brush truck that we bought. That's about $300,000 for a brush truck. Once again, it'd probably be even cheaper than that because it doesn't have the pump and some of those components that brush truck has. But order of scale threefold is what we're talking there from a cost effectiveness standpoint. With the squads, operational efficiency comes into play. So with the two-person squads, it really does improve our enhances our responsiveness to EMS calls. EMS calls are over 60% of the calls we run to. So having a smaller vehicle that can get around a little quicker, can access things a little better, really starts to help with those EMS calls, and then take some of that workload off that engine and leaves it available for the calls. Environmental responsibility. So obviously, when we're dealing with a heavy rolling stock vehicle where we're getting limited miles per gallon, things like that, versus a squad where we get a little bit more, and then even just CO2 emissions and things like that, which we'll cover a little bit. It does get back to strategic alignment. We like to say the right resource for the right call the right time with the right providers. So really looking at when we send a piece of apparatus, that it's designed and equipped to handle the call, but also to do it with all those things in mind and city goals and responsibilities. So we covered this a little bit, but cost effectiveness, probably the quickest and easiest way to look at Engine 5 runs about 1,400 to 1,800 miles per month, depending upon the month. So a fairly substantial workload, if you will, when they're getting 3 to 5 miles per gallon. As we move into a pickup, we're getting 10 to 12 miles per gallon. And then if we could get into a hybrid vehicle, we're looking at the mid 20s for miles per gallon. So that cost effectiveness there really starts to multiply when you're looking at those volumes of calls, and then being able to take it away and respond with the squad in lieu of an engine. For CO2 emissions, we certainly, with going from a heavy chassis vehicle to that light chassis vehicle, we do see a reduction there. One estimate that we were kind of running based upon switching all the way from kind of a fire engine, a heavy chassis vehicle, all the way down to an electric vehicle, we were estimating potentially up to 24 tons. So once again, estimate, but just order a scale of magnitude reductions of CO2 emissions there from going from a heavy chassis to one of these squad vehicles or a light chassis vehicle. Greater coverage areas. So the concept with the squads being lighter, more nimble, a little bit more responsive is that they can cover a much greater area. So for example, if we were proposing a squad at 5s, we would anticipate that it may be able to cover 2 or 3 districts of coverage. The green on the left, if you will, is 5's normal response area. The gray on the right is the response areas of District 1 and District 5. So obviously, if the squad was running out of 5s, it would pick up other areas, but representatively, it's a much bigger area, up to 3 districts, depending upon the calls and the volumes and the response times that we would anticipate that squad would start to pick up calls for service, pick up those medical calls, things like that, and reduce some of the workload of neighboring districts' engines and trucks. Response reliability. This is where the squad really shines over 4-person staffing. 4-person staffing really improves our efficiency, or improves our ability to do things. As we kind of covered that last time, the 2 in, 2 out concepts, being able to have more people on scene for a medical call. What it doesn't do is it doesn't improve that district's or our response reliability. So our available to have resources available in district to respond and or to reduce our response times if that engine or vehicle is out of district. And that's where the squads come into play. We can layer squads over the top, have a second apparatus, if you will, in a district or an area, and it provides that redundancy for service. So that's really where the squads come into play. And that's why I say it's complementary. The 4-person is important, and so is the squad, because they work together collaboratively to kind of solve that whole response time component. As I mentioned, the improved response times, we could put 5 people, 6 people on an engine, and we're not going to improve that second due apparatus getting there. So with this, it allows us to add a second apparatus available if that first one's out on a call, things like that. And that's where that response time improvement comes into play. So I promised I'd be short and sweet with this presentation because, like I say, really it was 2 or 3 more. On to our last one is really what's our next steps for the squad. At this point in time, really, we'd like to implement a squad at Station 5. Right now in our master plans, our request would come in 27, fiscal year 27. So we aren't asking for it this year. But as we continue to move forward, that would be kind of our first steps. With that squad, as I said, it's a 2-person rig. We need 2 people per shift, which would give us 6 firefighters. And then basically after that, then we'd start to look at our future station orders based upon Dark Horse. I think Chief Niemeyer spoke a little bit about Dark Horse. Dark Horse is our predictive analytics tool. It's about 80% complete, and we're spooling it up day to day. And what that allows us to do is to look at a number of different things, but it speaks to that response reliability piece. It speaks to a term we call effective response force, which is getting the right number of people to the scene for the right incident. So, for example, I think Chief covered a little bit with a structure fire. We try to get 15 people on scene to be able to perform all the tasks. And that software can help us look at, if we put a 2-person squad here, what will be the improvements in that effective response force. The same thing with response reliability as far as calls for service, things like that. And the really great thing about that software is it's predictive. So it takes into components of our modern zoning code and looks and says, this area is going to develop out as high density residential. The calls and volumes are tied to that. So, and then the final thing there is specific benchmarks. When we look at squads across the nation, there is multiple flavors. It's kind of like Baskin and Robbins with 31 different flavors of squads. What they do, why they do, how they do it is different. And here for Boise, we really want to make sure that we have benchmarks in play to make sure that the squads are performing and meeting the needs that we have here. Coming up later this week is Community Risk Reduction Week. So the governor will be doing a proclamation. And the really great thing about community risk reduction across the country is every community's risks are not the same. So Boise may have wildfire risks or river risks or structure fire risks that other communities do not have. So really looking at the risk and then custom tailoring our responses to those risks. So with that, I would stand for questions.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
This is a sincere question. When I got on council, we had just finished contract negotiations. I remember 4-person staffing being a hot topic there. I do not remember squads coming up. Did that come up in the last contract negotiations? Yeah, help me out.
So squads have been a long-term goal for us for many years. And 4-person staffing is one method to get to 1710 compliance. Squads is also that same. What the department's goals or Chief Niemeyer's goals was really to look at 4-person staffing in our outlying companies where they have to operate for a little bit longer by themselves to support some of those 2 in, 2 out principles, things like that, where that crew is a little bit more effective with 4 people. And then looking at squads to supplement the central and core companies where one squad may be able to supplement station 5, station 9, and station 3, let's say, or something along those lines. So using that 2-person squad to, in essence, make a 4th person on an individual standalone rig. So no is the simple answer, but yes in philosophy, right? So.
Madam Mayor, my other question on this, could you talk a little bit more about 1710 compliance? We talked about it, I think, briefly when Chief Niemeyer came, but obviously with what's been in the news, I think the public's very interested in what we're doing to not only protect ourselves, but make sure that folks not only have insurance, but what can we do to even lessen that burden for them? Are we making those investments? So could you talk a little bit about that and how that might affect private property owners and with some of our goals around staffing and that kind of compliance?
Sure. Madam Mayor, Council President Nash. So there's a couple of components to that. So 1710 has a number of different goals, if you will. And there's 2 primary drivers, if you will, of 1710. And I would say it's concentration and distribution. So looking at concentration of resources that affect a firefighting response force, how quickly we can get a number of firefighters to a location. And then secondarily, kind of the distribution of resources, making sure that we have stations spread throughout the city, like up in 13's area that we're adding now, because we had a gap up there, right? We couldn't quite get up there in our response times and expectations. So that's where 1710 comes into play, and that's where 4-person as well as the squad comes into play. When we really start talking about insurance, where we're trying to make strides is with our insurance services or ISRB, so Idaho Survey and Rating Bureau ratings. Right now we're rated a 2, which is a very good rating. But if we can get to that 1, that's where we can start to see some improvements with regards to insurance ratings and things like that. That is the primary driver of why we're not a 1 is people. There's a number of components that go into that: water supply, alarm dispatch and handling, our apparatus, our trucks and where they're located, things like that. But a big component of that we're, I wouldn't say deficient, but we're not gaining all of our points is in staffing, is in the number of people on a truck or an engine.
Madam Mayor, Romeo, my question you talked on it a little bit about like making data informed decisions on two-person on squads, and then I want to better understand how we would be making similar database decisions on where we implement four-person staffing, and then where a next station is, and how those affect response times and so forth. So, what is the department's plan on how we make data-driven decisions on all of those fronts?
Madam Mayor, Council Member Nash, excellent question. Really, what we look at for data, if you will, is a couple of different points. And I would say the first thing we have is we have kind of an overlay map for future planning. So we have a master siting plan, which lays out fire station locations. That is a fairly static map, based upon kind of 1.5 mile, polygons. Probably not the best, but when we're conceptually planning areas that we don't completely know what they are, our best guess, if you will. As we continue to move forward, especially with four-person staffing, that new analytic software that we have allows us to do things like turn on and off a fourth person on an engine. And what we do is we're going to go back to and look at our response criteria. So how quickly we can get to a certain place. So what's the response time that we get there for the first due engine, because that's very important. But not only that, but the effective response force. So we kind of mentioned that those 15 people. So right now that takes us a number of apparatus and a number of trucks. As we continue to add 4 people to an engine or increase those numbers or add a squad into the mix, what that does is it makes less apparatus that have to get on scene to meet that effective response force. So as we play with the software, or use, I shouldn't say play with, as we use the software to make informed decisions, right? It allows us to look at those numbers and see where the best bang for our buck is. So where we can achieve the greatest increase in basically meeting our goals and standards of both response times, effective response forces, and response reliability. So there's another component called unit hour utilization. So when we start to look at certain units, we see how many hours they are out of service because they're on a call or in training. So we start to look at that as well, and that's where the squad can help. So that's how the data would be used. That's how that software would be used, is we'd start to look at those and play those out. Obviously, with stations, we are a little constrained. Going out and buying a new lot or building a new station, moving a station just down the road is challenging, not impossible, but challenging. That we'd have to look at that and make those determinations.
Madam Mayor, Romeo, just a final follow-up on that. Let's say I see Eric in the back, so I'm gonna make him nervous with talking about large investments in fire. Let's say council decides that over X number of years, say 5 or so, we decide to bring X number of stations online with 4-person staffing, and we think we can do X number a year, 1 or so. Do you think that your software could prioritize what stations in order would be best suited to receive those investments first?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Nash, I do believe that. And I guess what I would say is it's data informed decisions, right? So there's still a people component. Chief Bolin, myself, Chief Niemeyer, we still take that data and we look and see what makes the most sense too. So it's not just a black box that spits out a number. I would say it supports our decisions, but after being at the city for 12, 13 years now, I can pretty much know where we need resources, but the data helps us inform and say, yes, this is the right one. We also do have a number of competing interests, right? So when we start to look at the South area, when we have needs for tenders and water supply, and then we have the foothills areas and we have a need for rescue responses, and we have needs for water responses. So all those factors do have to come into play, but I do feel like we can make a pretty informed plan. I think our master plan right now starts to look at what our best guesses are. Obviously, they're not funded, but it is starting to lay out what our future plans are and needs are to meet where we want to be.
Madam Mayor, I've got a question about just if you could further describe some of the things that these squads would respond to. And the reason that I asked this question is I think that this first came up in front of council a couple of years ago when we started talking about squads and we started talking about some of the medical responses that the fire department has to respond to regularly. And I remember getting a couple of emails afterward saying, why don't you all just invest in more ambulance services or partnering with Ada County or housing those within the fire departments? Can you talk a little bit about what the difference is in how these would respond to different types of events?
Sure. Madam Mayor, Councilmember Halliburton, I think it gets back to maybe the word for tonight is complementary. We operate as an EMS system here in the county and work collaboratively with Ada County. Right now, they're predominantly a ALS transport unit service, if you will. And then we have predominantly BLS engines and ALS engines, basic life support and advanced life support engines that respond with non-transport components. Where the squad is, it adds an extra layer in there where it will take away some of the call volume from those engines. It could also support the ALS ambulances by getting advanced life support there sooner if we put paramedics on it. We did kind of run some trials with an advanced life support unit, if you will. There is also a potential that as we continue to grow as a city, some cities use a basic life support ambulance. So they don't have paramedics on the ambulances. They have basic EMTs for lower acuity calls. The squad then could potentially be an advanced life support. Where I grew up on the East Coast, for example, we basically had a lot of basic life support ambulances, and we had a fly car, we called it, that came out of the hospital district with the advanced life support care, met up and handled the advanced components while we handled the basic components. So lots of different models there for that. The squad, though, would be intended to respond to medical calls in the certain districts, as well as rescue calls, as well as fire responses and things like that. So it would respond to any number of calls to anytime we needed more people, I would say, as well as anytime we could reduce some of the workload of certain engines or trucks in those areas.
Great, thank you. I think one of the things you said earlier, in addition to what you said now, kind of resonates with me in that we are not quite sure what flavor we're going to be yet as we introduce these squads. It could change, it could adapt, and we're doing that adaptation based off some of the data that we're receiving by getting these things implemented. So we've got these squads here who may respond to things in one way now, but they also may change in the future as different things change and data shows that we need to be investing in some other areas. So again, I appreciate kind of that extra clarification, because the last time this came up, people were just like, well, why don't you just get more ambulances? But that doesn't necessarily provide the flexibility that we need to cover a lot of different services. So thank you for that clarification.
Madam Mayor. Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. I think adding these types of squads, it seems very efficient and a great way to, I guess, reduce taxpayers' dollars to see how we can stretch those by adding these two-person squads and also for the vehicles. So I appreciate the efficiency and also looking at the software dark horse on how we can respond better. One question I have is if you can help me just talk a little bit about how the master plan integrates, or how does it include the Whitney Fire District?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Corliss. So the Whitney response area, if you will, there's a couple of components to that. So I would say the first component is portions of the Whitney response area are within our IG area, our growth area, if you will, the city's growth area. In those growth areas, we show fire station locations. Outside of those growth areas, we do not show fire station locations because it's Whitney's area. For example, our last master siting plan actually showed some station locations outside of the city's growth area, and we chose to remove those based upon some support or some direction from council at the time. So we don't plan for fire station locations outside of Whitney's or outside of the city's growth area, if you will, with our master siting plan. Now, with that said, they do overlap. So the best location right now from a Whitney fire station location and or a city fire station location in our growth area in the Whitney's area is in that 5 Mile and Lake Hazel area. We have a fire station site proposed, actually owned by the city. A portion of it is is owned by the Parks and Rec of the city, and then a portion of it would be dedicated to us. It's about an acre site up front along Lake Hazel, just to the east of kind of the commercial development there with Albertsons.
Madam Mayor, just a follow up. So when we also with our master plan, does that include equipment such as the squads, and will it include incorporating the data from the Whitney Fire Station into Dark Horse as well? Or is it included?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Corliss, yes. So when we do when Dark Horse is configured, it's configured for BFD's response area or service area. So that certainly includes Whitney's areas. We even, Meridian is also using this. Eagle is going to this as well. So we're actually able to pull in partners' data as well and look at kind of the whole picture. So the goal would be as we get there, we can start to look at, for example, Meridian Station 37, located kind of to the to the west of Eagle Road, looking at some of those responses, because when that intersection opens back up at Eagle and Lake Hazel, they run down Lake Hazel pretty far based upon how we dispatch resources.
Madam Mayor, if I could just one more clarification. This is, as far as an action item, is just information only, but the information that we're getting, I believe, is that we will be implementing a squad at Station 5, and we'll be using data to examine implementing them at other locations at this point. That's sort of the overall information.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Halliburton, not quite.
Okay.
So in our master plan, we have 4-person staffing proposed for the next number of years. In addition to that, we have we have a squad proposed in 27, 29, and 31. Those are master planned. They're not funded. They're not in the comprehensive budget plan. So what it's our job to do is to bring back, after working with staff and mayor's office and budget, bring back those proposals and those asks. So at this point in time, no is the simple answer. What we would propose to ask for that squad, or at least propose that squad into the budget asks in 27.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to add, thank you so much for the presentation. Wanted to just add that I think, now more than ever is we're maybe all realizing not to take for granted our fire response teams, our first responders, our preparedness for disasters. So I look forward to the proposal and seeing how I can support that.
Madam Mayor. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm wondering if you can help educate our residents when they make a call for service. How is it determined that the right resource goes to that call? What does that look like?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Willets. So what happens is they call dispatch, and our computer-aided dispatching system at dispatch, they start to ask a number of questions. Those questions then kind of key in what we send. We have a number of different codes, if you will, fire resource lists, if you will, that says for this type of call, it gets this type of resource. So depending upon what the call is, it gets more or less resources. And then the availability of our crews then have the ability to add more resources. So let's say a car fire, for example, car fire would only get a single engine response. If while they're there responding, they get additional information that it's now a gasoline tanker, our crews then can upgrade that to add additional engines or to add additional water tenders and things like that, depending upon where they are. So it's based upon what they tell dispatch, and then we have kind of standing orders for what goes. Based upon our auto aid agreements with our other mutual surrounding cities, we may get some resources from those other cities as well. So for example, if that tanker fire was right on Meridian's border, we may be sending the first engine, but we may get an engine from Meridian as well to support us. And then we in turn support them in the same manner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Romeo. Thanks, team, for being here too. And the final item we have is an interim budget change. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, members of the council. We have 5 interim budget changes for your consideration this afternoon. I'll note that the format for the interim budget changes that was included in the packet was slightly amended from prior presentations you've seen. We were able to leverage our budget publication software for the production of this, and we'll be doing that going forward. And that resulted in some significant time savings for the budget team. The first interim budget change is an increase of approximately $365,000 in the risk management fund. When we create the annual budget for the risk management fund, actuarial estimates are utilized for expected self-insurance costs. After the fiscal year begins, we receive updated actuarial estimates. For fiscal year 25, the updated estimates were approximately $140,000 higher than the spring 2024 estimates. Additionally, the quotes for liability insurance came in higher than budgeted due to claims experience. This liability insurance portion of the increase is approximately $223,000. These increases will be supported by fund balance in the risk management fund. And as part of the upcoming budget development process, staff will be evaluating funding needs in the city's insurance funds and may bring forward recommendations to address contribution rates if appropriate. The second item is a $263,000 revenue neutral appropriation increase in the capital fund for an energy efficiency conservation block grant. That grant was awarded by the United States Department of Energy. The grant will help increase energy efficiency by retrofitting the downtown library with LED lights and fixtures. The third item has 2 components, both of which would benefit the Warm Springs Golf Course. First, a revenue neutral appropriation increase to build a fireplace and add wood ceilings at the new Warm Springs Grill and Golf facility. These added costs would be supported by multiple donors who have stepped forward to fund those amenities. Secondly, a $555,000 budget neutral appropriation increase is recommended to add all electric golf carts. Electric golf carts have become the industry standard. Gas-powered carts have an estimated useful life of 5 years, while the electric carts have an estimated life of 8 to 10 years. The cost of 60 new electric carts would be supported by golf proceeds, utilizing unused fiscal year 24 major equipment funds that were carried forward into fiscal year 25 for this purpose. The fourth item is a 2-year term limited position to support the existing continuum of care homelessness program, given the recent awarding of 2 large programs. Those programs are the Youth Homelessness Demo Project and the Social Impact Partnerships to Pay for Results, otherwise known as CIPRA. Starting up and implementing the 2 new programs is more than current staff can currently manage. A new position would manage existing work, allowing staff to focus on the 2 new programs. Grant details and timing for these 2 new programs are still being developed, but getting a backfill position hired early this year will be an important factor in these programs' success. Funding for these positions would come from unallocated fund balance in the Housing Projects and Special Activities Fund. It would not affect funding that is planned for affordable housing planning projects. The final item is a $2.4 million appropriation increase to support increased capital and operational costs of the phosphorus removal facility. The capital funds would address project costs, including material disposal, sedimentation, basin replacement, and purchases of major equipment essential for the facility, including a new backhoe. The operating costs would cover things such as supplies, power, chemicals, and increased maintenance associated with the backhoe. The additional funds are critical to achieving the goals of the phosphorus management strategy. With that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions the council might have.
Madam Mayor, Eric, thanks. Always good to see you. On the new position in community development, who was the organizer or what organization gave us the grants? The Youth Homeless Demo Project and the Social Impact Partnerships?
I believe those are housing and urban development funds, but I could get back to you with.
I can answer that.
exactness.
Are you asking about both the, you asked about the two sources of funds?
Where they're coming from?
So the youth homelessness funds are coming from housing and urban development. We announced that we won that grant sometime before Christmas. The regional director came to town. That was a competitive grant. And then did you also ask about the SIPRA funds? Is that the second one? The SIPRA funds, this is super exciting. This was, let me make sure that I'm talking about the right funds. Just gonna. Yeah, the SIPRA funds, the Pay for Success funds. This was the potential opportunity that I discussed when we approved the $7.5 million to support services for permanent supportive housing to get families and others self-sufficient. And this is the council agreed to provide $7.5 million. It's at the Idaho Community Foundation. So this is that new partnership with the Community Foundation. And then are working with the community to match that dollar for dollar, and then applied to the Treasury for the SIPRA Pay for Results grant. That was super competitive, and we were so excited and it was because of the city's commitment and the community's commitment. I believe that we were successful. So that money is actually coming from Treasury, and it's I call it Pay for Success because that was its original name. That's the money that we're allowed up to that amount of money to have the community foundations SHIFT, the Supportive Housing Investment Fund, be reimbursed when they demonstrate the savings that getting folks on the road to self-sufficiency and house provides the community. And so I believe it's $6.5 million. I'm just speaking off the cuff for the Idaho Community Foundation that the SIPRA grant is, and then about another $1 million will go to Boise State and the Idaho Policy Institute that will continue to monitor the results and the savings achieved to then demonstrate to the treasury the amount on an annualized basis, which can be reimbursed. So that fund will keep living.
Madam Mayor, I'd move approval of the interim budget changes as presented by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion.
Madam Mayor, I just want to say thank you to the public support that the golf course has had, and it's just made it a great place that we can all be proud of. And it's very accessible, and it's going to be very nice because of that support. So thank you to the public for that.
Madam Mayor, I just also wanted to call out the golf course too. I mean, the neighbors there have worked hard for many years to bring this to fruition and get it across the finish line, and amazing still that they're continuing to add design elements and helping support in that manner. So I really appreciate those donations from those neighbors, and can't wait to see that project finished up this year.
Madam Mayor, just one more thank you. I appreciate all the work from the finance department and staff, figuring out ways to find partnerships on so many of these things. We've got, grants coming in from a variety of different directions, adjustments that we're having to be made for phosphorus because of different regulations that are coming up. It's a lot of navigating to do to make all these different numbers work. A lot of partnerships, whether they're private donations, grants that we're getting at a federal level. And I just appreciate the work that goes into that complexity. So thank you to you and your grants team.
Madam Mayor, if I could just have one more comment on this. A year ago, council presented its budget priorities, and I was kind of nervous because we had done a lot on housing, and there didn't seem like we were going to turn on general fund support, and I didn't see opportunities coming to do more housing, and they keep on coming. And that's through your leadership, hard work of staff to do that. And thank you for having a vision that was a little bit bigger than mine a year ago. So thank you.
Madam Mayor.
I'd just like to respond to that. I really appreciate that, but I'll also remind you that you and council encouraged us to look at every opportunity possible for grants, and so proud of the work that the team has done to do that. And this is something that was a priority of ours to ensure that we ran around, told the Boise story, looked for every opportunity possible and then fought like heck to submit a good grant proposal. And since October, we've had $16 million in funds through competitive grants come in for our housing work. And there are more opportunities that we're still chasing. So it truly is at your encouragement and a result of the commitment and passion and really diligence of our team that's made this possible.
Madam Mayor. Yeah, I think the city's doing an excellent job applying for grants and winning those grants and bringing that money into the community. I just want to make a call out on something maybe not so fun, and that's investment in public works. While it's not as exciting as a golf course, it is necessary. And I think we should all be happy that we have a city and a mayor that's choosing to make those investments in these necessary systems. And so I'm glad to see this on the interim budget change. And it may not be as fun, it is definitely necessary to keep our residents and our water safe.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Clerk, will you call the roll?
Ross,
Yes.
Nash,
Yes.
Said,
Yes.
Willetts,
Yes.
Corliss,
Yes.
Halliburton.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
And with that, we will take a quick break for dinner and be back here at 6. Thanks, everybody.